Hello, listeners, and happy international break. My name's Such.
My name's James.
And we're here with the People's Poll, our weekly Monday show where we put one topic out, or we put a vote out to the public. They choose what we're going to discuss.
I don't choose very well.
Well, yeah. I mean, how many votes did you get on that poll on Twitter?
Oh, it was 850 or something.
Yeah, so, it is democracy. 850 people is a reasonable number of listeners to have a vote on. So tell them, what were the options? Remind me for the.
Is this a good time to point out that maybe we shouldn't trust people in this country with voting?
Yeah, true.
Although we don't know where all the votes came from. Maybe they were overseas.
Yeah, that's true as well. What were the options for us to discuss this week off the back of game week 4? So another pretty decent game week, actually. Enjoyable weekend of football. A lot of goals this weekend.
So we put out a discussion potentially for the England squad.
Yep.
A discussion on the Champions League and Europa League draws, which is probably what I thought was going to win.
Yeah, that was the one I didn't want to discuss.
Oh, okay, fine.
I couldn't be bothered.
And the one that obviously all the feedback was on, do a chat about racism.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a focus a little bit on this recurring theme of social media abuse that players are getting.
Yeah.
But he didn't win.
No. The winner was?
Who cares? No, the winner was City's potential issue with Laporte's injury. And I guess, what does it mean for them defensively? And what should FPL owners do, basically?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you're an FPL owner on Laporte, you've got to sell, right? If not, it's a red flag at the moment.
We don't know how long he's going to be injured for. But as I said to you off camera, if he's done his knee injury, he's not going to be propping back up in game week 5, mate.
No,
it's just not happening. So I think we're looking at months. I think the worst case scenario could be that his season's finished. I think that's a possibility. There's no way of determining or knowing that at this stage. But when you've had an impact knee injury like that, the hope for him will be that it's not like he's not done like say what Charlie Daniels done the week before, which is awful and no one's near him and he's properly ripped his ACL and the season's done.
Yeah.
The fact that there is some sort of impact to the injury does suggest it's probably not likely to be season ending, but I think we'd still looking at months out. I'd be hugely surprised if Laporte played this month. Hugely. He's got to be replaced if you own him.
So the question is, what happens to the City defence now? Surely they would just keep it to a 4 at the back and just use Stones and Otamendi. Now, Stones is still injured, but hopefully not for long.
John Stones is very close.
Yeah.
And kind of in this middle of nowhere, knowing quite how it will go, Otamendi basically didn't really get a look in at all last season after a very good 17-18 season when he was a great FPL asset. His price really sharp. We don't really know if he's going to stay in the team even with this injury. Now, he played to the right of Laporte and has done in the last couple of games with obviously Stones absent. I think the general consensus, if we think back to obviously our discussions with Johnny, who we've had on twice, FPL Pringle, is that it was really time to give Stones the shirt and see how it would go with Laporte. Now, John Stones could well walk back into that team, and you would think, it seems quite simplistic, Stones plays with Otamendi. I'm not sure that's the case. And one of the things I threw to Johnny when we spoke to him right back in June was this idea of Fernandinho playing at centre-half.
He has played there for City before.
Which he came on and played there. And what's really specifically interesting, and it's probably a benefit to Otamendi, is Otamendi played right of Laporte, and then when Fernandinho come on, Otamendi played to the left. I looked back to find games where Otamendi had played with Stones. And again, Stones will play on the right, Otamendi on the left.
Yeah.
So it looks like Otamendi would be the safest choice because of the three of them, if you include Fernandinho in that conversation, he is, good morning, man child. He seems to be the one that would be most comfortable playing on the left of the back four.
Yeah.
What should owners do?
I'd check the camera, mate. So
Yeah.
Manchild's just walked in.
Hi, Manchild. You're late.
Yeah, fucking good afternoon,
Morning.
Manchild. You'd think so. I see Fernandinho as a second choice replacement. You'd rather play Stones and Otamendi, right?
But we've seen him try that with Fernandinho, with Laporte already on occasions. So I think there was particularly games as well where they're going to really dominate the ball.
Yeah.
He can afford to do it. And if you think about in the same way that Walker and Zinchenko go narrow to kind of fill up that midfield space, you know Guardiola likes to keep evolving, right? Just let Fernandinho step into it from a central area, right?
Yeah.
And essentially you're leaving one at the back. Now, there's certain games where City are so fucking dominant. They can do that. It doesn't matter. The instinct, however, I think for those who would be on Laporte would be maybe not necessarily to just go straight to a City guy. And it might be a case of reworking different... The reason I say that is, if I said to you, pick 3 Man City players to put in your FPL team now from scratch, which 3 would you pick?
Sterling, Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, and I'd say Sergio Aguero, but that's not factoring in the price of the players.
No, but that's the correct answer.
Those are the 3 that I would want. Whether or not I could afford them is a different question. But it's not defensively where I'm looking at them. I'm sitting on Ederson at the moment, Zinchenko. So Laporte is at 6.5 million. Now, you'd work off the assumption that Lucas Dean's ownership is about 28%. A lot of the people that own Laporte don't own him, but he would be if you didn't own Lucas Dean, then he would be one direction that you can potentially go in. And if you've got money in the bank, and you don't own any of the other Liverpool guys, and you can fit another Liverpool defender, there's another option there. But those are the standout options outside of City at the moment. But you're going to assume a lot of people have got 3 Liverpool players, and there's a bunch of people that already have Lucas Dean. So then what do? You could bank the money and upgrade elsewhere, right? Change your formation potentially.
That's what I was going to say, is because obviously there's not too many teams knocking about other than those who've probably already wildcarded with just 3 defenders. A lot of people have gone 4-4-2 to start with. Mm-hmm. This is probably the time to move that Laporte money from the back
into the middle or even up front.
But let's not forget, Laporte's ownership was really low anyway, right? It was about 8%.
Yeah.
The thing for me was
because of his price.
I took a hit at the weekend, and the only thing that I wasn't happy about with my team was the fact that Laporte wasn't in it. So I've had a touch, right? Because I'm still thinking in my head, at some point I'm going to want to come off. The only thing you were happy
after you made your transfers. Because before you made your transfers, the thing you were unhappy about was not having Kevin De Bruyne.
Well, yeah, that's a different podcast. I always in my head wanted to find a way to go to Laporte for that security. I think you do want some sort of City coverage at the back. I think the answer is going to be Otamendi, is my instinct.
Otamendi is priced at 5.5 million or 6 million? 5.4 million, so 1.1 cheaper than Laporte. Laporte hasn't had a drop yet, has he?
No, but he will. Laporte, because of his ownership's not huge, will have drops, but it won't be massive. Probably, if he was fit in 2-3 months, you might pick him up at 6.2. It's not going to be a lot lower than that. Otamendi's 5.4, owned by just over 1%. Stone's ownership is slightly higher at 5.4 price, but his ownership is still under 2% as well. These guys are massive differentials.
There's no chance that so when England played with 3 at the back, Kyle Walker ended up being the right-sided central defender of a 3. There's no chance you can really see Pep changing his formation and system to 3 at the back.
Won't play 3 at the back without Laporte, and obviously Company's gone as well.
No,
it's not going to happen. Can't see that. I don't know. Is there a case in certain games you could play a back 3 with maybe
Cancelo and?
Well, I'm thinking more like. Not so much Cancelo and Mendy wouldn't be suited to it, but because of...
Well, they like to bomb forward.
Walker's obviously done it for England.
Yeah.
And Zinchenko is quite a safe player.
Yeah.
Should we say? He'll pass the ball into every... It was actually him giving the ball away that led to Webster breaking and Laporte's injury. But he's generally a tidy player. Possibly in the back 3, Zinchenko and Walker could play either side of... Probably Stones would be the best one to sit in there centrally.
I don't think Walker,
don't see that.
Otamendi and Stones, and then a left wing back and a right wing back.
Well, yeah, if you went that way with a 3, you're probably playing wing backs like, I mean, ideally,
Cancelo, Mendy.
if Sane was fit.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
not
possibly.
happening for a
I
while.
think, I mean, Mahrez, in certain games, Mahrez and Bernardo could both play the roles as well.
Okay, yeah. So you're thinking much more attacking-minded midfielders as your wing backs, and I was just thinking Cancelo and Mendy. So yeah, potentially that's interesting to look at.
Bernardo's definitely played right wing back for City on a couple of occasions. I think Otamendi's the answer. One of the things on this, I kind of said it with the 2 there, is the ownership across the City defence is really low. So Ederson's got decent ownership, 22%. Cole Walker's got nearly 20% ownership, and he's probably dropping. Zinchenko's the one that's on the rise, 13.1%, and we'll see a rise during this break, I'm sure.
If we think back to what Johnny said in the 30 and not 30 and 30, maybe it was a 30 and 30, or when we had him on Clash of the Correspondents in game week 1, he felt Zinchenko was safe up until the international break, and then we don't know after that. So we've had our 4 weeks of fun with Zinchenko, and his price is on the way up.
And I think the same might be true of Walker as well. I mean, a lot of people who will know better than myself really rate Cancelo.
Yeah.
And the thinking is that longer term he'll take the shirt off Walker. He can also cover on the left, Cancelo, but with Mendy coming back to fitness, I don't see that. I think Zinchenko and Walker owners should be a little worried, about this, because there's no doubt about it that City will be a little bit weaker defensively without Laporte, but probably more the rotation issue. I'm concerned about Zinchenko now. It's part why I got rid of Walker at the weekend. I had a sneaky that he might get left out at the weekend because I felt it was a good game to put Cancelo in.
Yep.
So I was a little concerned about that. I think probably for me, I'll judge it after the break, but I think I'll be moving Zinchenko to Otamendi at some point in the next month.
I'm in a slightly different boat for what it's worth. I've got Ederson, Zinchenko and Sterling as my 3 City coverage. Obviously with the big at the back strategy with the 3 Liverpool defenders in there. Now, Liverpool obviously have come in with my clean sheet this week and the bonus points and the assists, so a tidier return from them. I want Lucas Digne in my team now, and so I think I'm going to try and work out a way of going from Zinchenko to Lucas Digne, and then my City defensive coverage just is Ederson, and I'll take that. And then that gives me a spare City spot to have Kevin De Bruyne alongside Raheem Sterling, which also might mean a change of formation to, well, maybe a 4-4-2. Maybe a 4-4-2. And that means Harry Kane might potentially be leaving my team.
You do that, mate. Everyone else is.
What, selling Harry Kane?
Yeah.
I've got...
He's been due to go down in price
for how
every
long?
night for
I had
fucking
earmarked
ever.
Harry Kane, actually, not this week, but the week after. Game week 6, I might go from Harry Kane to Aubameyang, because then Arsenal have such a good run of fixtures thereafter.
Arsenal do have an incredible run of fixtures. But the Europa rotation, we really don't know how
that's the
Emery's
challenge.
going to manage it. And obviously for City, the Champions League's coming back round as well. Now, the draw's been quite kind to them, I think. But they're not going to pick weakened teams as such in the Champions League. The rotation is coming up. Definitely, and we have to be a little bit conscious of that. I can see why you want to get De Bruyne in. I had to get him in my opinion.
Yeah,
I had to get him in. The second I got him in, it didn't even matter how much it cost me. I felt so much better about my team.
Yeah, he's literally returning.
Two minutes I had to wait. 2 minutes, love it.
I don't know who I would get rid of to get him in. Madison's the only one. I've only just got Madison. I want to keep Madison, but he's the only one that's close enough in price that if I made one other move and freed up a little bit of money, that I would have enough money to get Kevin De Bruyne. Do you think he's a must-have now?
Probably beginning to feel that way. I mean, if you look at the ownership of De Bruyne and Sterling, Sterling's now at nearly 47% ownership at the time of recording, and De Bruyne is over 31%.
Is he still 9.7 or is he?
Now, there's a massive combination of those two as well. Like a lot of teams are going to have both of these guys.
Yep.
And you can't get away from the fixture run they've got coming up. I mean, just start with the next 2, Norwich away, Watford at home. Like, it's frightening if you don't have the attacking ownership in City, I think. But I also feel like I feel like you do want defensive cover, but it doesn't feel. I guess for me, as an owner of the Liverpool trio of VAR, I don't feel as desperate to have the City coverage, and the firepower is huge. Like the thing with City as well, though, is they'll share the goals around a bit more than Liverpool.
Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool have scored 3 at the weekend. Mane, Firmino and Salah have all got attacking returns in that. And you can commonly expect that. Sterling, by all accounts, was quite quiet at the weekend. Didn't have many touches in the box. I think it was just one chance created. Ain't going to happen often.
No.
So, Sterling owners should not be concerned. I think a lot of us captained him at the weekend, and I don't think it was the wrong choice at all.
No, same as people that captained Kane the week before. I've seen a lot of people moaning about captaincy blanks over the last 3 weeks when people have picked Salah against Southampton, Kane against Newcastle, and Sterling against Brighton. Hindsight and all the rest of it, those were not the wrong captaincy calls.
This was inevitable after last year because everybody hit it in the first few weeks. So you have that kind of, what do they call it, like ownership regret or something?
Yeah.
That trend that started, so you think you go into the season and you're thinking, mentally, I was hammering captains early that last year. And you have a couple of blanks, you start worrying about it. I've had 2 blanks in a row and 0 regrets on the 2 guys I picked on both weeks. Mm-hmm. No regrets.
Yeah, I think you have to look back at your decision making. I'm in a number of leagues. There's one guy in one of my leagues. He got 81 points last week. He's blind captain Aguero from the start of the season. How many people in that boat? Like a couple?
Oh, loads of teams already dropping out who've got like Aguero blind captain. And they're probably doing quite well.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
we're all sitting there. Pre-season, because we all thought he wouldn't start at West Ham, which was correct.
Yeah.
And looking at the opening fixtures that Aubameyang had at Newcastle and Burnley the week after, Kane at home to Villa opening day, and obviously a lot of people going into cheaper forwards, your Jotas, Kings, etc. at the start, then this emergence of people like Pookie, Abraham, that's why Aguero wasn't getting spoken about so much. There's nobody who's listening to this right now doesn't want Sergio Aguero in their team. Mm-hmm. Don't believe that. It's not my greatest priority though, and I'm still keeping faith in Harry.
Let's just wrap up with a quick look at our zombie team because we've been playing for 4 weeks. How many transfers have you made in those 4 weeks? 5, I think.
In the zombie team, not made any.
We have
that would be cheating.
And our zombie team is kicking my ass and your ass at the moment by 12 to 15 points. It's up to 200 in the Who Got the Assist Zombie League. I'm sure Tom said that there was a £5,000 cash prize for that league or something. I'm going to have to tweet him later.
No, I think he said 10,000.
10,000,
yeah,
right, okay. And I saw the donut against Laporte and I was hopeful that Diop might come in, but obviously not. Diop's going to be our replacement now. I can see West Ham keeping clean sheets against Villa, and we've got a couple of easier games after United as well. So it's not the worst replacement, but 79 points this week. Vardy's doing the business. To think that we've got up to 300k in the world with a frontliner Jota, Vardy and Che Adams. Adams, how many returns this season? None. Jota, how many returns this season? Didn't even start the game yesterday. So Kevin De Bruyne, Salah, Tielemans, Sigurdsson, and then the Liverpool backline of Trent and VVD did it for us.
Well, the rest of the team was picked on consistency, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. And sometimes that goes a long way. It goes to show, like, you don't overmanage, right?
Well, you talk about Tom and Nick. I mean, Tom goes on about it all the time. And actually, when I was thinking about the hit, I'll talk about it more on the main pod, but I got Dean, De Bruyne and Mason Mount in. Overmanagement was in the back of my head. But the more I was looking, I was just trying to work out how many moves it was going to take me and how many weeks before I was going to get De Bruyne in. And I was like, that's too many. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
So I decided to do it. People who know me well know that hits are quite unconventional for me. Those who listen to the Friday morning podcast were like, James, there were no signs of that. Have you been drinking? Are you okay? It's like, yeah, no, I didn't. I've still got a sore throat. Partly from the game yesterday as well. I just felt De Bruyne, for me, I had to get in. It doesn't mean it is for everybody. You asked today, essential. I don't think anybody is at this moment. there's a lot of people be going, Salah's essential, of course. It's not in mine.
No.
You can't have all these guys. And if you're on a strategy at the moment that's kind of Salah, Sterling, and quite weak up front, if you've got guys like Pookie, Barnes, Abraham in at the moment, you're probably quite pleased with how it's going, and that's understandable.
Well, Pookie's just blanked, and he's got City at home next, so it's not going to be easy.
And on De Bruyne, people are going to start targeting. If I kind of harp back onto what I said when we played them in game week 2, people are going to start targeting areas to try and stop him. The problem is he's so good, he will just go and play in a different position.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's anybody better than him in that position. I've said it so many times.
No, he's class at the moment. He's just running games.
I don't think there's anything he can't do. And also, if you do have him in your FPL team, I've said this about David Silva in the past, who very quietly has had 4 assists in 2 games, by the way, and he's getting next to no mentions. You will feel better having Kevin De Bruyne in your team. I was just going to look at David Silva's ownership, actually, 6.3%.
That's pretty high, but I think that's a lot to do with his price. He was the cheapest good City midfielder that you could potentially have.
He's had a price drop since the start of the season as well. Obviously,
is he 6'9"
he actually
now?
had one between game weeks 3 and 4, in spite of 2 assists in game week 3, and obviously had another 2 assists in game week 4. I think the problem for David Silva is, and there are other players who will play at times in that area. But do you know what? There's a little backstory with David Silva. The fact it's going to be his last season at City.
I said that at the start pre-season.
I
do you know what? Is
wonder-
he going to go out in a blaze of glory after 10 years at the club?
It's the sort of one where actually, if City do really well again, and if he has an unbelievable season, he's remember that year Giggs won Player of the Year. He wasn't really. It was kind of a nostalgic vote because nobody really stood out that season. I mean, David Silva might well still stand out this season. He might actually come round to being in people's
over
thoughts
the years,
for that.
despite minutes, has
Wonderful
always been
player.
there. And he is attacking minded, so he will create chances.
Yeah, I mean, especially if City get big leads in the league and that, I think they might get a little nostalgic about it. I think the Premier League will suit him more now than European football. A little bit, because in Europe, the teams are a little bit cuter in how they counter-attack, as I think City have seen at times in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Should we wrap that?
Last season, 2,400 minutes. What's that in games? About
70% or so.
Yeah, there you go. 6 goals, 8 assists. The year before that, 9 goals, 11 assists. But he's consistently around. Okay, so that's 20 returns, 15 returns last year. If you got 15 returns out of David Silva this year, you'd be happy. Won every other game almost.
Yeah, you probably. I mean, he's got 4 assists on the board. The only thing with a midfielder is you want more goals than assists, right? Because of the 2-point difference. Rather than say with the forwards, Callum Wilson's had 2 price drops. He's returned in every game.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little bit mad. You want more goals, and I think I always say with like the City Liverpool guys, don't compensate. Get the 3 that you want. I think unfortunately David Silva wouldn't be top of that list. I think he'd probably be kind of 5th, 6th in people's thinking.
Yeah.
If Bernardo gets back in the team regularly, which he will, then he would come into a higher point of thinking than David Silva, I think.
For sure. Cool. Let's wrap it there. That's our Monday morning look at one of the topics that people want to talk about, which ended up being the best team in the league, give or take, with Liverpool.
There wasn't. We couldn't really do.
Talking about City.
We couldn't really do 20 minutes just on who's going to play centre half. I mean, fucking hell.
No.
I've learned some lessons about this poll. I'm on it now.
I'm going to do the poll next week. Let's see. Guys, enjoy the international break. We've got a bit of time out from FPL to soak it all in. We'll be back at you this evening with the main podcast. And we'll be going through all the games in more detail, including the North London derby and including the West Ham game and the Leicester, three goals for Leicester, which was pretty tidy.
Interesting weekend.
Yeah, it was.
As long as we don't talk about VAR, we'll be fine.
Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.
The Fantasy Football Show.